All right, you tell me when.
Good, Chase. How about you? Good. How's it going? Over there.
Okay, are we ready?
It's good.
Can I go? Okay,
We ready?
I think we're ready.
It's time to start the August 26, 2020 Dickinson County School Board meeting. Let the record indicate that all board members are present, including Superintendent Haiti Robinson, Clerk Tanya Baker, Attorney Scott Mullins. Let's stand for Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have an agenda. Is there any suggested changes or additions to the agenda?
Yes, sir, there is. Good evening, Mr. Chair, board members. We're requesting two additional agendas today, items. One is the approval for Dr. Potter to begin telemed at the DCPS schools beginning on Tuesday, September the 8th, 2020, in contingent with that we do get an agreement and a memorandum of understanding that Mr. Scott Mullins, our school board attorney, can review before then. And then also resolution supporting our SRO grants program and funding. And you have that resolution before you, and those are the only two agenda items.
I would also like to make an agenda item request. Be added brief discussion on the changes to coaching contracts.
I'll second that.
Is there any discussion? All approval of the additions? Say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Brings us down to public comment.
Mr. Mullins, if you'll read the policy for the comments, and Mr. Setzer, if you'll time it for us, please.
Guidelines for public comments at Dickinson County School Board meetings. A period of time for public comment will be designated on the meeting agenda during which the public may comment on issues related to public education. The Dickinson County School Board believes that the citizens of the county should be heard and that this is an acceptable format for receiving public comment. After the public comment section of the meetings is closed, the public shall not be allowed to participate in general board member discussions regarding agenda items. Public participation with the board members regarding agenda items can be disruptive, and the practice is prohibited by Robert's Rules of Order. It is a desire of the school board to treat each member of the public fairly and equally. Allowing one individual to participate while excluding others is unfair. The board may hold such public hearings as may be necessary to allow the public to more fully express their concerns, or the board may place the public comment section of any meeting at the end of the meeting to allow additional public comments. While we do not wish to restrict the free expression of opinion, we feel that certain restrictions may be necessary so that order and reasonable standards may be maintained. We ask that the following standards be adhered to. The speaker will be recognized by the chair. Each speaker will be limited to 5 minutes. Speakers will refrain from the use of vulgarity or profanity and will avoid negative or embarrassing comments directed towards specific children or students. Board members should not respond to issues presented by speakers unless clarification is necessary. Matters of concern raised under public comment will be referred to the proper official for investigation and future board consideration if necessary.
Kathy Music.
Yeah.
Good evening, Mrs. Robinson, members of the board. My name is Kathy Music. I'm the regional representative. Good evening, Mrs. Robinson, members of the board. My name is Kathy Music. I'm the regional representative for Virginia Professional Educators. And I just want to say that I am so proud of your leadership team, Mrs. Robinson, everybody in Dickinson County for their hard work. COVID-19 has brought fear of sickness, fear of health. It's brought a lot of fear. And as teachers, as educators, we also have the fear of our students getting behind, our students at home not getting what they need. There's so many things as educators that we have to think of. And I just want to commend your all's teachers as they get out there and do what they can, where they can for the students, whether it's virtually or however it is that as this year goes on, you know, I've heard it said not just in Dickinson County, but in every county, it may be that we have 3 different models in a certain year depending on the case, the number of cases in a certain region. So that is a hardship on everyone, from bus drivers to cafeteria workers to teachers. And I just want to say that there are heroes. They're out there doing that every day, and thank them for their hard work. I'm now a grandmother. I was a teacher and an administrator, and now I'm a grandmother helping a child at home that is virtual because of the pandemic. And, you know, it's a lot. And so thank you, teachers, for all that you do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Music. That brings us down to Phyllis Mullins.
Good evening. I'm president of the Dickinson Education Association. I'm part of the VEA, which is part of the NEA, which is the national organization. I want to thank Ms. Music for her recognizing the hard work that we're all putting in, including all of you. It has been difficult, but we are moving forward. But we do have bigger problems facing us. We know that the state General Assembly is in session and that they are looking to cut public schools about $80-some thousand through a tax distribution. I want you to know that VEA is lobbying every day against it, and that we are trying our very best to protect public school funding. I get emails and messages, and I am in contact with virtually through cybermail to lobby our local representatives, or not local representatives, but our state representatives, our delegates, and I encourage everyone to please email your state representatives and let them know that public school funding cannot suffer more cuts. Thank you.
I would also Excuse me, Dr. Lyle. I would also like to invite our public to call 835-1620, 835-1620, if any members of our public would like to call in for public comment. And Dr. Lyle, if we could just wait just a couple of moments to see if we have any calls from the public.
Okay.
Again, the number is 835-1620. Mr. Wallace, are there any phone calls? No. Okay. We'll give it just another moment. 835-1620 for any of our public that would like to call in with a comment during public comments. Mr. Wallace, still no comments? Okay. All right, we're ready to proceed, sir.
That brings us down to item 3, consent agenda. A, approval of minutes. Looks like we have 4 meetings in July. We have had 4 meetings in July. July the 2nd, July 13th, July 22nd, July 29th. Hearing no comments, is there a motion to approve the
I move to approve.
minutes?
Second.
Has it been moved and second?
Yes, sir.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Which brings us down to approval of monthly bills. Any comments or discussion about the monthly bills? Is there a motion to approve the monthly bills?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And that brings us down to 3C, School Activity Fund.
Move we approve, Mr. Chair.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. School Activity Fund, approved. And that brings us down to information for the board.
Good evening, board members and Dr. Lyle. Before you, you have just the 2020 VSBA conferences and seminars. Again, we have listed those for your information. If you are interested in participating in any of those virtual or webinars, please contact Tanya Baker, and she will be more than glad to help you to register and to provide the information that you need. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And then that brings us down to item 5, Superintendent Robinson. Good news for the school.
Thank you. I just would like to take this opportunity to briefly update you on the beginning of school on August the 24th for Cohort A. We spoke with all of our leadership staff this afternoon at 2 o'clock to debrief, and I just want to share with you that our staff, all of our staff, our principals, assistants, teachers, maintenance, cooks, everyone has done an exceptional job to get us to this point. I cannot say enough about their hard work, the hard work of all of our directors, everyone. Anxiety, I think, on Sunday was probably, unmeasurable. But I think when we got into school on Monday and saw the students, and it was wonderful. It was just fantastic. We have another first day of school tomorrow for Cohort B. We are still working through issues. We're still working through obstacles. We're working the problems as they come, and we will continue to do that. We will continue to revise and tweak. But for the first 2 days, it went well. And I just would like to recognize everyone, our parents, our students, all of our staff who contributed to that success. If you have any specific questions, I'll be glad to answer them. But I just did want to report to you how it had gone for Monday and Tuesday. Any questions or comments regarding that?
I just say it's just good news to be back in school,
It is.
and I do expect this year to be a year where probably our teachers and staff learn more than students this year. It changes daily, and they have to be flexible and move, and I know they're working very hard
They really are,
to
Mr.
make
Hicks.
this thing happen.
And when you talk to many of them, they will tell you whether they've taught 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, 30 years, this feels like my first year of teaching. This feels like my first year of teaching. It is that new. So again, just great support from our community, our parents. We thank them for their patience. We know that they've been patient, and we continue to ask them to just hang with us. There will be problems, there will be issues, but we are trying to address them as they come and find a possible solution for each one. So just a big thanks, and can't say enough about also our technology staff. We have distributed the Chromebooks. Our students are taking Chromebooks home. Just everyone has contributed. Just for the board's information, yesterday, all of the cohort students took home a food for 3 days, and I can't say enough about our cooks. With that, they boarded the bus, and it was a very easy process, very organized. Today, we fed all of our remote students. Parents came by the schools to pick up their meals, and on Friday then, all of our Cohort B students will be handed a bag of food again for Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And so, again, just feed that many children. Everyone gets a meals and breakfast for 3 days or 5 days for our remote students. It's pretty incredible. And so, again, I just want to take time just to thank everyone for their hard work. It's remarkable.
And that brings us down to update on the new elementary school presentation.
All right. Thank you. It's my pleasure to introduce to you a group of folks, gentlemen who are standing or who are sitting here on our first row for a presentation to the school board regarding the proposed new elementary school. And I'd like to ask Mr. Ellswick if he would come. Of course, we know Mr. Ellswick. He doesn't need any introduction, but we like to see him here. He's going to be presenting from the Skanska construction manager. We're also going to have Mr. Quisenberry from Quisenberry Construction here, Mr. Jones from OWPR. I see Chris Mullins. Did I miss someone? I see Chris Mullins from TNL. Did I miss anyone else? Oh, the Lane Group. What did I say? I'm sorry, Chris. You can just blame it on me. Let me say that again. Chris Mullins with the Lane Group. Did I get that right? And so welcome. It's great to have you with us. We've all been waiting on this, and we're all excited and anxious to hear what your report is. So welcome. And if you could Someone could turn the, thank you. All right. We may want to ask the board to, if you like to move where you can see the screen, that would be great. Hold on just a moment.
Everyone, thank you for the opportunity to be back and give an update on the elementary school project. We've been making very good progress in the work that's been done over the last few weeks, and this team will give you an update here a little in just a couple minutes here. But just wanted to highlight some of the things that have been going on. As you probably heard, the administration and some of the staff made a site visit to a recently completed elementary school in West Virginia called Ridgeview Elementary School, no, just by chance. But it gave them an opportunity to walk around a new elementary school and see the spaces and how the school is laid out, how they teach, and what works, what maybe doesn't work for Dickinson County, looking at building materials and various things, and talk to some folks at that school. And so they were able to do that, and they provided feedback back to the design team on what they liked or didn't like, or what would work for Dickinson County and how you teach in an elementary school, and which was very valuable information to have so that they could absorb. The design build team that you're getting ready to hear from has been diligently working on various fronts. If you have seen outside the school here, on this side of the school, there's stakes and flags out there. There's been some surveying work that's been done, some soil boring completed. They have also been working on site planning and the environmental permitting process, as well as what you'll see tonight is what we call schematic design, which is some of the initial phases. So all in all, we've been very busy in some of the due diligence that's required early on in design to make sure this school is going to work here on this campus. So with that, I'm really excited to turn it over to the design build team, the Questenberry's team, as we call it. But he's got some OWPR as a designer, as well as the Lane Group, not Thompson Litton. So I'm going to turn it over to Abe Questenberry and let him introduce his team and talk about the progress.
Here. Going the right way. Okay. Thank you, Curtis, Ms. Robinson, members of the board. My name is Abe Questenberry. I'm president of Questenberry's Construction, Big Stone Gap. I'd like to reintroduce some members of our team here. With me, I've got Spencer Questenberry, who's our vice president, who's going to be heavily involved in the pre-construction. We've also got Chris Mullins and Kevin Heath with the Lane Group, representing our site civil design firm. And over here we've got Randy Jones and Hunter Wilson, who are representing OWPR, ZMM, who'll be handling the building design. I'd like to start off by just saying that we're very excited to be part of this project. I feel that we've got an excellent team that has ties to this project and the communities that they serve. And I want to thank the board and Skanska for entrusting us and selecting us to design and build your elementary school. Today we're going to walk you through some details of the school that we completed to date, including some elementary school features, some conceptual floor plans that we're going to take a look at, and also hopefully at the end of this we can do some question and answer sessions, answering questions that you guys have. So tell you a little bit about our firm. In our background, we've been building and completing projects in Southwest Virginia for about 75 years now, spanning 3 generations at Questenberry's. We've got a long history of completing complex projects in this region, and I'm confident that we're going to make this new elementary school project a similar success. For those of you who are unfamiliar with some of our work, some of the more notable recent projects we've completed in this region include the David J. Pryor Convocation Center at UVA-Wise and the new library at UVA-Wise, which you can see pictured there. We also have a lot of experience working in Dickinson County. We recently completed the Dickinson County Social Services Project at the old Longs Fork Elementary School just outside of Clintwood. And we're currently finishing up the Health Wagon project in the Dickinson County Technology Park just down the road. Both of these projects involve working with Skanska, with members of the Dickinson County team, and we feel that this continuity has helped us put our best foot forward if we're getting started here designing this new school. I also want to just reiterate, construction is what we do. It's what we know. It's a passion and a profession that we take great pride in, and we're happy to bring all of our resources to bear to be a part of this project. We feel that the nature of this project plays directly into the strengths of not only our organization, but also the team that we've assembled. If I could handpick a project, I think it would be one similar to this, given the familiarity of the team members, the collaborative nature of the chosen process, given our early involvement, and also the added benefit that we have from working on a project that's so important and such an integral part of our community. And as we come here to this campus and see what you guys have been able to accomplish here, it really gives us, makes us excited about what we're going to do together. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Randy Jones with OWPR ZMM. He's going to come up and give you some background on his, discuss their role in the project.
Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here tonight to share with you some information. We have been working hard over the past several weeks to try to come up with some information that we can share with you all tonight. Wanted to give you a little bit of information about OWPR. We are an architectural engineering firm. We've been in business well over 50 years. I've actually, and I just totaled it up, I've been with the company 30 years, so quite a long time. We are partnered with ZMM Architects and Engineers, and collectively we have designed over 300 school projects. So we definitely would consider ourselves experts in the field of educational design, specifically K-12 education facilities in the Virginia and West Virginia market area. As Curtis mentioned, we took a tour of Beckley, Virginia. This was a school in Beckley that was designed to be a zero energy ready school. It just happens to be also named Ridgeview Elementary School. It is very similar in size to some of the schools that you all are considering. The nice thing about this school is that it has a lot of similarities in terms of just demographics and features that I think that you all are looking for in a new elementary school. As we stand here today in your facility, your new facility, which I know is approaching 5 years old, but for me it's still a new facility. It's incredible to see that this got built, that you were able to accomplish this. It is our goal to create an elementary school for you that you can be equally proud of and showcase for Dickinson County and the residents, students, and staff. We're going to look at a couple of features that the folks that toured the school seem to like. One of the features is, right as you enter the school, a secure entrance waiting area. This area is accessed from an exterior door. You have to be buzzed in. Once you come in, there's a transaction window that you can speak to the receptionist. This area you are basically staying in until either your son or daughter will come and join you, or you'll be asked to come into the administrative offices. But this significantly reduces the amount of traffic in the administration area. And given the situation we are with COVID-19, it also provides an extra level of protection for those coming into the building and those working in the building for folks on a day-to-day basis. So I think overall we thought this was a really good feature that was something we want to consider and design in your new school. The next feature that we looked at was what we call a STEAM lab. STEAM, if you're not aware, stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, Art, and Music. In this particular STEAM lab, it has 3 components. The first of which that we're looking at is the media center. The media center is designed to be flexible. All the bookcases are on wheels. The furniture is movable, as you can see with the interesting mushroom-shaped seating to the right. Students can pick those up, move them, move around. This is an active center. There's a lot of activity that goes on. This is not your traditional quiet library. There's made to be engagement with between students and faculty, and also between students and use of technology. So this is a really great use of space. It's very flexible, and it is dynamic in that it can be used in a lot of different ways. The second piece of this STEAM lab is an art area. This is also where our wet areas are located, so we have sinks. You can see the floor is a hard surface floor. There's a lot of transparency. There's a lot of exciting things going on in this particular area. You can walk by and look in and see the students working on their art projects. They have access to really great technology that can be implemented into the schedule. And they can also go directly into the media center should they need to get additional resource materials to help with their art projects. So again, another really great use of space and a very flexible use of space. The next component is our Makerspace. This is what they are currently using as what they call their STEM lab. And they have a STEM coordinator that actually works in the space, and it's a supplemental position that teachers can schedule time for their classes to come in, and they can work on multiple projects that involve either math concepts integrated with art concepts, math integrated with music concepts, science and art. So there's a lot of different things that go on in this area. There's a lot of storage cubicles, and again, there are a lot of ways to configure the furniture so that you can use it in many different ways. So this STEAM lab looks very different from what we would traditionally see in an elementary school of just a traditional school library. The music classroom is located across the hallway from the STEAM lab, and it also happens to has a dual function as the stage that serves both the gymnasium and the cafeteria. We were particularly interested in looking at this particular room because there was concern that there would be noise issues. When children are in the music classroom, they would be able to hear activity in the gymnasium, or they would be able to hear students at lunch in the cafeteria. But with the way the room is configured and the sound partitions, the principal assured us that they have had no issues with that, and that this is actually a really wonderful space for students to actually do music and dance. They actually do dance in this particular space also. So it is larger than what a traditional music classroom would be. And you can see here in this photograph of the gymnasium, where on one side of the stage the sound partitions are opened up. They can have a performance on the stage opening to the gymnasium. Likewise, they could open up the opposing wall into the cafeteria and do the same, depending on the size of the group in there. This is a true gymnasium. It's not high school regulation size, but it is larger than most traditional elementary school gymnasiums. It does feature a hardwood floor, which is a big maintenance item, so the group's been discussing some other alternatives for flooring in that space. And then to the left, you can barely see it, but there's bleacher seating for the entire student population in the bleachers. So when they do have a school assembly, they don't necessarily have to have the students sit on the floor or in folding chairs. So that gives them a lot of flexibility in how they use this space. Normally, I would not include a photograph of restrooms, but I thought it was important to showcase this. You'll see this more and more in new school design where there are no doors on the restrooms. They are screened for privacy. There's a boys' side and girls' side. The students will come out into this little vestibule area to wash their hands, use the paper towel dispenser, while teachers are supervising them so that we don't have the typical mishaps that happen in bathrooms when children are unsupervised. So this will reduce those issues significantly, and teachers can now make sure that students are properly hand washing and following those hand cleaning protocols. And also, we just wanted to also mention that this particular school has 2 unique playground areas. One area is designed for the kindergarten, first grade grades. It's a fenced-in area. And then immediately adjacent to that is a playground for grades 2 through 5. And that has access to a large open play field. This particular project actually has beginnings of an orchard and some raised planter boxes. There's an amphitheater on the space, so there's a lot of creative uses for the site and how they're using that. But I thought it was important to mention that the outside of the school and its features will be just as critical as the inside of the school, and we'll take all those things into consideration as we move forward. So I want to move now to our conceptual floor plan. So we're in the early stages of looking at how the school could be arranged. We're currently looking at a 2-story plan. And if you look in the top or the left-sided plan, that's the first floor. The very top is a light blue area. That's where our administrative area and main entrance is. That's where our secure entrance will also be, and where our SRO officer will be. Going down the bottom of the page, and I believe I can, there we go, I can highlight this. This main hallway comes down, and we have a cafeteria here, stage here, and gymnasium. This ends up becoming a community entrance, and it also would be where students could get on and off the bus in that area. This entrance is designed for morning and afternoon pickup and drop off for car riders. So we wanted to separate that so that we wouldn't have traffic congestion and just try to make things move smoother. This area, oops, sorry, hit the wrong button. This area right here is our STEAM lab, and this is where we have the Makerspace, the media center, and the art component. One thing you'll notice is we have these, did it again, apologize. We have these community spaces located in one area. We are able to zone the building so we can lock off the building after hours so that access to the other academic areas can be restricted. Also, the access to the upper level academic areas can be restricted so the building can be used after hours with minimal intrusion into the rest of the building. As we mentioned a few minutes ago, the academic areas are located to the left and along this main corridor. These are the lowest level, grade level classrooms, the kindergarten, first grade classrooms. The upper level is predominantly a mix of third, fourth, and fifth grade. And we have redundant features on each floor, such as group restrooms and those types of features. So again, we're in the very early stages of design, but we're just now organizing spaces, trying to figure out how they might relate to each other, how they can be zoned and used in different ways. Schools are being designed more and more as 18-hour facilities, meaning that they could potentially open at 7 a.m. and then not close until 11 p.m., depending on the after-school activities and the evening activities that may be happening in them. So we want to make sure we design the building to be as flexible and secure as possible. And with that, I will turn it over to the Lane Group.
Thank you, Randy. My name is Chris Mullins. I I'm one of the owners of the Lane Group, an engineering and architecture firm that'll be tasked with the site civil, environmental, and geotechnical engineering component to this project. I would like to thank the board. We're very appreciative for the opportunity to be a part of this team. I'm a familiar face around here. I'm a Dickinson County native. Actually, this past year, my daughter graduated, went out this door, and on Monday, my son entered the middle school door. So, like I said, I'm a familiar face in the county and on this beautiful campus. But I would like to tell you a little bit about our firm. And then our vice president and partner, Mr. Kevin Heath, will stand and go over a preliminary layout of what this building that Mr. Jones just went over with you would look like on this campus if the board chose to do so. But the Lane Group is a certified SWAM small business formed in 1996 to provide engineering and architecture service in the Southwest Virginia, East Tennessee, and Western North Carolina. We operate from 3 offices here in the heart of Southwest Virginia: Big Stone Gap, Abington, and Galax. Our in-house services include civil engineering, architecture, geotechnical engineering, surveying, environmental, construction observation, and construction administration. This is what we do. Abe spoke a minute ago. You know, they build. Randy, his firm, and our firm, this is what we do. We design. If we can design it, Quezberries can build it. We have extensive experience in providing those services to local governments and state agencies across the Commonwealth. We also have 33 additional staff members and professionals, and we've provided professional site development services for 25 years on both secondary and higher education facility projects. Real briefly, and then I'll turn it over to Mr. Heath. Key staff members from our firm will be myself. Like I said, I have 24 years of experience. I'm a Dickinson County guy. My kids go to school here, and I'm very proud of the fact that to work on this project and get to work at home. Mr. Heath will serve as the site civil project manager for the assignment. He also serves as our vice president, and like I said, he's an owner as well. He's a Hokie with 30 years of experience and has provided these similar services for over 30 years throughout the entire state. Geotechnical engineering will be provided by Mr. Les Sutherland, who has over 30 years of experience as well, who's very diverse in all building types. And April Lane will provide environmental compliance permitting services. She's got a master's degree in environmental science. She has over 20 years of experience, and she's done a lot of notable environmental permitting for projects in the region, such as Big Cherry Dam and the campus that we're here on tonight for the original Ridgeview Middle Technical School project. Mr. Heath.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chris, and again, I'd like to echo what Chris said, and we certainly appreciate the opportunity to be here. I'm going to take these slides and just have a couple to talk about. We're going to take them out of order. This slide, what we've been tasked to do is to work in conjunction with the design architect and the contractor to situate the building on the site, hook it up to the utilities and the roadways, develop parking areas. And what we've developed so far with the building footprint that we have is this is what we've worked toward, what you see here. Basically, you're looking at the sheet north-south. This is the existing middle school, and where we currently have the building situated on the site is just to the east of the middle school. I don't know if any of you looked at, as you came in, but we have been out. We did geotechnical borings last week. We've had the surveyors back and staked in preliminarily the building footprint so that you can see it on the ground as it's shown here on the paper. The circulation, the existing parking lot that serves here, bus drop-off is proposed to be on this side. Students would enter here. faculty and staff and visitor parking would be on this side of the building, as well as student drop-off and pickup. So your main entrance and office areas would be on that side of the building, and you would tie back to the existing access road in the back. If I can go back just the side here, the playground area, currently shown to be on the right-hand side. One of the good things about this site, existing utilities are very accessible. Matter of fact, we found out last week the water line was a little bit too accessible, but we know where it's at now. So. And I realize this slide is a little bit light to see, but this is to show the circulation or the planned circulation with this particular layout of the school. How would it function? How would folks come into the campus to be able to access the school? The existing roundabout entrance that serves the current facility would continue to be used. That'd be the primary entrance into the facility. As you come in, currently, traffic is divided, 2 lanes on the right, 2 lanes on the left. Everyone has to make a right-hand turn and into the parking lot area to come through and circulate back out. It is proposed, as we have shown here, as you come in, we plan to make a left turn option before you get to the current split, if you will, so that as traffic comes in, you can go right-handed to the bus drop-off area or to the middle or high school as you currently do, or you can make a left turn here, follow the existing access road, back around past the ball field, and access into the parking lot area for the elementary school. That's what's currently proposed as far as the traffic circulation plan. And again, our parking areas, as we've got shown here, approximately 70 parking spaces as shown with that layout. Student drop-off and pick-up on that end of the building, bus drop-off on that end of the building, and using the existing access road for access into and out of the building. And that's quickly the site itself. I'd like to turn it back over.
So that's kind of what we've been working on thus far schematically, just trying to get some design going, see what our options are. So I hope this was informative to members of the board and everyone here. So with that, I'd like to turn it back over to Curtis or open the floor up to any questions that anyone may have. We'd be happy to help in any way we can.
If we could please have the lights on, that would be great. Okay, thank you.
Hopefully, everybody can see the result of these guys' efforts over the past few weeks. They've been busy. So, we would just like to turn back over to the board for any questions you may have.
Any questions or comments from the board?
What are we looking at square footage at this time?
Well, we got to build a minimum of 62,000 square feet per the core contract, but I don't know, Randy, where we're right at that? 2,000.
I'd just like to commend you for all the work that you guys have done in such a short period of time.
And Mr. Mullins and Mr. Heaton, I'm sorry that I got you confused. I apologize.
We've been called way worse.
Well, that was not my intention at all, okay?
So again, I ask for your consideration and forgiveness there.
Curtis, could you give us some idea as you progress how this will sort of evolve and how you'll be updating the board as things move forward and maybe change?
Sure. So mainly for these folks, they've still got a lot of work to do. They are going to present schematic design, pretty much what they have tonight, for feedback. And we're going to give them feedback and comments so that they can continue to move forward and continue to tweak things, as Randy mentioned, about spaces and how that's all going to work, and making sure we're staying within the budget, and we're going to do the due diligence. We still got the environmental process to work through, and we're working through that as well. But looking forward, the goal right now is there's stages of design, right? So they're at schematic design. We call it 35%. Their next deliverable is what we'll call 65% design, in essence, design development, and that is due around October-ish. So a little over a month, they'll come back with 65% design, and then a little bit closer to the end of the year, they'll come back with pretty much finished design. And at some point that we're around December, January, is the point that we're going to say this would work at Ridgeview. It works within the budget. There's no environmental issues. We've done our due diligence. At that point, we're going to present something to the board that says, you can move forward with this option if you'd like. That's kind of where we're going to be with a guaranteed maximum price.
Chris, how many classrooms are in the current design?
24? 24.
24. Does that include the STEAM and the arts area, or? Okay. 24 plus. So it'll be 27, considering those three areas as well. Thank you.
That was one thing we wanted to validate with the staff and administration, that they were comfortable with that.
And Curtis, just early on, you guys were doing some due diligence about things that could just be, deal killers for this site. And I'm assuming that everything from your bore testing to your review of the road, at this point in time, you found nothing that these board members should be concerned about that would indicate that Ridgeview will not work as an acceptable site.
Not at this point. We've the geotech report.
It's being written as we speak.
So we'll probably have their results next week. We've built a school on this site. Borings have been done previously. It's been compacted, and I don't expect, plus the environmental process has been done on the whole campus. Of course, we have to revisit it with the Army Corps. So we feel pretty comfortable about that. The traffic flow seems to work, and, it's still considered one main campus, and that school, it seems like we can work around that with the bus drop-off and the front of this side. So right now, we feel pretty good, but, we still got more work to do. 3 or 4 questions from you, so you got any more? In terms of an update, we plan to do an update every month to the board, or as often as they like. So we're prepared to come back to your September board meeting and give another update on where we stand.
Thank you, Mr. Ellsworth and gentlemen, for that presentation.
Thank you. All right. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Board members, if you would like, we could take a short recess, and with the gentleman here, we can go out and look at the actual site and where the flags are. The public is welcome to come with us. If the board so desires, we just need a motion for a short recess.
I motion recess.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
There will Be a short recess.
And we can go out the back doors here, and then we'll be right there.
Okay, we're back in session now.
Walking the ground. We're going now to our next. Are there any questions? I guess our gentleman left. So, Mr. Setzer, we'll turn our meeting over to you for the next two items, the DCPS crisis plan and approval of the SBA policy, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Robinson. Mr. Chair, members of the board, each year, the Code of Virginia requires that the superintendent certify that the board has reviewed each school's crisis plans. This is not an action item, but we like to have it in the minutes that the board members have reviewed it so that she can certify it before August the 31st.
Okay, thank you. And do we need a statement of certification, sir, from each board member?
We just need a statement from the board members that they have reviewed the crisis plans that was sent to them earlier in the month.
I reviewed.
Reviewed.
I certify. I want to say I certify and review.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, the next item that I have is 3 policies from the VSBA. One of these policies has changed so significantly that we have put together a short presentation to inform the board of those changes. We do have a slide presentation. If we could ask the board to move again. I hate to have it.
And if you'll just want to take your chair and, okay.
As I mentioned, there's 3 policies from the VSBA that we have for the board's adoption tonight. One of those policies, file JFHA/GBA, deals with the prohibition against sexual harassment, also known as Title IX. Quite simply, Title IX states that no person in the United States shall, on the basis of sex, be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefits of, or be subjected to discrimination under any program that the board may offer. Title IX is enforced by the Office of Civil Rights, more commonly known as the OCR, under the Education Amendments of 1972. Once a school has been put on notice that sexual harassment may occur in their school, they must act appropriately. Title IX has also more narrowly defined what sexual harassment is. I apologize for reading this to you, but I think it's important, so important that I must. The first prong of the definition of sexual harassment is an employee of the school board conditioning the provision of an aid, benefit, or service of the school board on an individual's participation in unwelcome sexual conduct. This is quid pro quo sexual harassment, where one person has power over another. To give you a couple examples, if you don't do this for me, then I'm going to do this to you, which could be firing or something of that nature. It's more specifically when somebody is in a position of power over a subordinate and they request something of a sexual nature that the person does not want to consent to. The second prong, which affects most of our students when we have a case of this nature, is unwelcome conduct determined by a reasonable person to be so severe, so pervasive, and so objectively offensive that it effectively denies them equal access to the board's educational program or activity. And the third prong of the new definition of sexual harassment in Title IX deals with criminal acts such as sexual assault, dating violence, domestic violence, and stalking. Anybody can report sexual harassment, and it can be reported to any employee in our school division regardless of what they do for us. And once it is reported, that is enough to put a school on notice that they must act appropriately. Once reported, the Title IX coordinator, who is me, will make an initial assessment to determine if the allegations can be sexual harassment. Once that is done, the coordinator will contact the complainant or the person making the complaint, and we'll talk about supportive measures. Supportive measures could be counseling, could be a change in their schedule, change in deadlines, anything to return them to the educational realm. The Title IX coordinator will also inform the complainant of the process of forming or of filing a formal complaint. And if it is criminal, the Title IX coordinator will also contact law enforcement or social services. And hopefully a joint investigation will take place, which is not always the case. A formal complaint is a written document filed by the complainant or anybody who has the legal authority to file for them, alleging that sexual harassment occurred, and against the respondent, which is a new word, used to be accused. Now if somebody is accused of sexual harassment, they're called the respondent. And it also, the formal complaint requests that the school investigates the allegation of sexual harassment. Once the Title IX coordinator receives the formal complaint, then the school must initiate the Title IX grievance process. During this time, those supportive measures will continue. In other words, again, these supportive measures are to keep the person in school, in the educational setting, while deterring sexual harassment while this process proceeds. Both parties, the complainant and the person filing the complaint, the complainant and the respondent, the person accused, must be treated equitably. One of the main things Title IX is stressing, that is just because a complaint is made, you have to be fair and equitable to both sides. In other words, the individual is innocent until proven guilty, more or less, if that makes sense. In a nutshell, the grievance procedures, the Title IX coordinator must notify both parties in writing of the allegations of sexual harassment. The formal complaint must contain the who, what, when, and where. It must be very detailed. That the school board or the school system intends to investigate it. Both new to the new Title IX rules, that both parties must be given an equal opportunity to view and inspect the evidence before a determination of responsibility is made. After both parties have reviewed the evidence, then a written determination is made regarding responsibility, and then both parties are given the opportunity to appeal any determination if they disagree with it. This is a major change in the new Title IX rule. No person can be disciplined based on an allegation unless a formal complaint is filed. There's one exception to that. If there's an immediate threat to an individual, then the respondent, remember the respondent is the person being accused, can be removed from school on an emergency basis, provided they're given notice and they're given a chance to challenge the removal. It is possible that an individual will not file a formal complaint. If they don't, then the accused or the respondent cannot be disciplined. Title IX in law enforcement, just because it is reported to police, just because there's an investigation going on by law enforcement or social services, even if criminal charges are filed or if it's in court, it does not relieve the school system of its obligations under the Title IX rule to act appropriately, which means going through the Title IX grievance process. Just some timelines in the Title IX with the new rule. The investigative report done by an investigator, such as the Title IX coordinator, the compliance officer, or other investigator, will be turned over to the decision maker. The decision maker if you will, is a judge who works for our school system. It would be turned over to the decision maker within 35 calendar days. Approximately 10 days before the 35 days is up, the report must be shared with both the complainant and the respondent, and they are allowed to write questions to each other, sort of cross-examine each other, before the information goes to the decision maker. Once all the evidence is turned over to the decision maker, they have 10 working days to make a determination regarding responsibility. Did the sexual harassment occur or did it not? Either party, again, may appeal the determination to the Title IX coordinator within 5 working days. Once appealed, all the information goes to the appeal decision maker, who must be different from the original decision maker. Again, the Title IX coordinator, the compliance officer, or any investigator cannot be a decision maker, will make no determinations of responsibility. I want to take just a few minutes to talk about the appeal decision maker. You'll understand why in just a second. But if a case is appealed, the appeal decision maker, whether it's one person or a group of people, a panel, they must give both parties a reasonable time to provide in writing a statement whether they support or challenge the outcome of the original decision maker. All the evidence must be gathered and provided to the appeal decision makers, and a written decision must be made, and a rationale for the result must be provided to both the complainant and the respondent and the title coordinator at the same time. That is the appeal decision maker process. In Title IX, the new rule also provides for an informal resolution process. This process will not be offered until there's a formal complaint filed. Basically, it's mediation. It will be facilitated by a trained educational person selected by the Title IX coordinator. The only time informal resolution can be offered again is when there is a formal process or a formal complaint filed, and it can never ever take place if the allegation is against an employee, between an employee and a student. The parties cannot be required to participate, and they can leave the informal process at any time and go back to the formal process. Now, the reason we wanted to present this to you, there's a couple items we need your help with, and Ms. Robinson, I'll let the board come back before we discuss this. But let me let the board get back. Yes, please.
We could have the lights.
The new Title IX rule requires the board to decide on what standard of evidence that they want the school division to use in the determination of responsibility of sexual harassment. They give the board basically two choices. One is the preponderance of the evidence, and the other is the clear and convincing evidence standard. We'll ask Mr. Mullins to step in and explain the difference between the two, but primarily, preponderance of evidence is more than likely it occurred. A little bit over 50% weighs one way or the other. Clear and convincing is more substantial than preponderance. In other words, it most likely occurred. So I guess the first decision we're asking the board for assistance with is which standard of evidence do you wish that we use when we have to investigate a sexual harassment allegation? And Mr. Mullins, you may have a better explanation of preponderance of the evidence and clear and convincing evidence than I gave, but.
I really don't. I would just say that if you think of the blindfolded lady of justice holding the scale, just enough to tip the scale is what the preponderance of the evidence is, sometimes called the greater weight of the evidence. And Mike said that it's It's a higher burden of proof is clear and convincing evidence, and the highest burden of proof is the criminal standard of proof beyond a reasonable doubt. So basically, you're being asked to decide the greater weight of the evidence, which is a lesser standard, or a higher standard of clear and convincing evidence in order to sustain a finding. I really don't have a recommendation on this. It's a matter of the school board's pleasure, and it was intended to be that way. That's the reason the law, the policy is set out, so the board has to choose. You know, the arguments can be made both ways. If you are a complainant, naturally you want the lesser standard. And if you are the respondent, naturally you want a little higher standard. But this is a board decision. You come to this with your own knowledge of systems and the community, and so you sort of make a decision. I don't think anyone could fault you for it one way or the other. It's just a matter of how you feel the school system should be operated.
I guess my personal feeling is clear and concise. I agree with that.
So this will be, just to make sure you understand, this is a policy, and it's a new policy. And it will go through various tests because it's a VSBA policy. It will be tested, and there will be cases that come out of it. And we may, this policy may be subject to review, and certainly our ability to review those standards can always be taken back up.
And this is the same issue we decided in a previous meeting that we would be the appeal panel, or was that a different?
I don't think we've decided that yet. That is our recommendation, that you will be the appeal panel, or the whole board or a panel of the board can be the appeal decision maker. It's our recommendation that as far as the decision maker, before it gets to the appeal stage, it would be Ms. Robinson and Mr. Mullins, because in the previous policy, the compliance officer would make recommendations to the superintendent. No longer will that happen in this process. So it'll go straight to a decision maker, which is the equivalent in a court system of a judge. They're going to take all that information, the investigative report, the cross-examination of everybody involved, if you will. Just because the complainant asks questions, written questions of the respondent, doesn't mean they have to answer them, but we have to give them that opportunity. So the decision maker will take all that information and make a determination if there was a responsibility of sexual harassment. At that time, either the respondent or the complainant, either one, can appeal. That's where we would recommend it be a panel of the board or the full board. And we'll go when we get to that point, of course, we have to do a little more training. We'll have to do a lot of training for a lot of folks on the new rule. But our recommendation would be for the board to be the appeal decision maker, and Mr. Mullins and Ms. Robinson to be the decision makers before it gets to that point.
And to be clear, that's Mr. Mark Mullins.
Mr. Mark Mullins, yes. Or Mr. Scott Mullins.
Do we need to adopt that tonight? Is that the request?
This policy actually, or the new Title IX rule went into effect on August 14th. So regardless of whether this board adopts it or not, it is still in place. We would be obligated to follow the new Title IX rule. So I guess the answer would be yes, we need to adopt this policy in case there is a
And make a determination on the level.
Yes.
I will follow what Mr. Hicks stated. I sort of see that clear and concise is a reasonable approach.
And not to be too much of a stickler, but it's, I know you guys are at a disadvantage because it's right over your head instead of where you can see it, but it's clear and convincing.
Clear and convincing.
And again, clear and convincing does not rise to the standard of probable cause, but it is a higher standard than preponderance. So,
Do you need a motion for that?
we would just adopt the policy with that language. The clear and convincing, the decision makers would be Mr. Mark Mullins and Ms. Haiti Robinson, and the appeal decision maker would be either the full board or a panel, whatever the board wants to decide. And a panel usually is made up of 3 members.
But quite honestly, we want to hope that this is not something that becomes a regular event, and so it would be my recommendation that the full board be the appeal decision maker as opposed to 3 of you. I just feel like that this is a significant enough issue that if we have an employee that feels like they've been wrong, that each of you should participate in that process.
And just for the board's information, there's not, I can't remember appeal going to the board in the last few years. So we would need a motion to pass its policy, let me give them the policy, JFHA/GBA with the language of clear and convincing evidence as a standard for decision-making, with the decision makers being Mr. Mark Mullins and Mrs. Haiti Robinson, and the appeal decision maker being the full board.
That's correct.
I'll make a motion that is the motion that we put forward is to use that plan with the clear and convincing with Mr. Mullins and Ms. Robinson to be the decision makers and the full board to be the appeals panel. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, I also have 2 other policies that the board, we're recommending the board adopt. Policy JM, which is restraint and seclusion of students, and KNAJ, the relations with law enforcement authorities. We recommend that they be adopted as presented.
And board members, you received that earlier in the month, so just for your information.
Is there a motion to approve those? Or do we need a motion?
Yes, sir, I think we do.
We would need a motion.
Was there changes to that from last year as well?
There is the restraint and seclusion of students. Ms. Edwards is here if there's any specific questions, but basically the restraint and seclusion, we have to develop new procedures as far as that and make it a regulation to the policy. As far as the relationship with law enforcement authorities, the only change to that policy is that we have to include the restraint and seclusion with their memorandum of understanding. So we'll have to redevelop the memorandum of understanding with law enforcement.
I understand.
And members of the board, I would recommend you adopting the policy. I know the VSBA has been very active in putting these together based upon changes in the law. So I think that what they have presented is consistent with the law, and we basically need to adopt the policy.
I move we adopt the policy as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Setzer. And our next item is approval for Dr. Potter to begin his the telemed in our DCPS schools. Dr. Potter was with us in July, presented a program. He would be available to come and participate, not to come, but to participate with our nurses if a child were to be ill. And we would like to pursue that, and that is our recommendation. What we would like the motion to be is that you would authorize the division superintendent to negotiate an agreement and a memorandum of understanding with Dr. Potter, and for our school board attorney to review the documents before they are signed, but at least for us to begin that process.
I think this is something we ought to do. I certainly supported this when it came. I think it's good for our students, and I think it gives the parents certainly a feeling of confidence. I think that we're doing the best we can for their children in this situation.
And I think, and Mr. Rasnick, I think in the moment of all of this COVID and all the things that our nurses are dealing with, we took it as a very positive. But again, we would just have an agreement and a memorandum of understanding that Mr. Mullins would review before anything would be signed.
I understand, and I also want to say that our school nurses do a wonderful job. And
They
over
do.
the years, they've certainly been they're relatively new still, I guess, in the school system, and they certainly are worth their weight in gold.
Absolutely.
For our children and teachers in these schools. I would certainly make that motion to authorize the superintendent to negotiate a memorandum of understanding to be reviewed and approved by our attorney.
Yes, sir.
To do that with Dr. Potter.
A second.
All in favor of that motion?
Aye.
Our next agenda item is, I think you have a resolution supporting SRO grants program and fund. This is a endeavor across the state. In May or June, we recognized all of our SROs. They were here, and at that time, I contacted Senator Pillion and shared with him our support, the board support of our SROs and further funding. Since then, I think we've been requested to adopt as a board this resolution, and we would just like to present this resolution for your consideration. As you can see, all the whereases there, but we certainly support our SROs and also support our SRO grant funding and programs, and would like to make that official with this resolution.
Thank you for this resolution, Ms. Robinson. I very much appreciate the SROs.
Absolutely.
I feel it's important to adopt this resolution. I don't know if everybody's got to look over it yet, but I'd definitely be glad to make the motion that we approve this resolution.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
And again, State Senator Pillion received the board's approval and support. We're just making it more official with this statement. So thank you, Mr. Hackney.
Now that brings us down to item J. Is that an addition to the agenda, item J? Mr.
Yes,
Hackney?
I requested that, just more or less. I know that there was new language added in the coaching contracts. I know the intention for that new language was to provide the board more flexibility, which I understand that intent. So I just more or less have a statement that we understand that coaches don't always just coach in season. A lot of times they're coaching year-round in their sport, depending on, the workouts that they do. So I'd just like to, before we consider any prorated moves as far as coaching stipends, that we would consider that, if a season did get canceled, that doesn't necessarily mean that coach is not going to be coaching their student athletes. That's just the statement that I wanted to make to the board.
Well, I would agree. I think our coaches do a whole lot above and beyond. They do it for pennies on the hour most of the time. And I think it's important, just as important, they provide a whole lot of this emotional support and those kind of things that our students are going to have. And, it's coaches, a lot of times they should be all named Elmer because they're kind of Elmer's glue that holds schools together. You know, if you need somebody extra outside, it's usually let's holler at Coach this, and if you need something else, let's holler at Coach this. And you know, I got one memory very early on is when I was teaching, and I heard a couple of girls come down the hallway, and they said, "Hey, her water broke. Let's go get Coach Mullins." And I was glad that Coach Mullins' room was before you got to mine. You know, but that just tells you how important they are too. You know, I always felt that was kind of interesting that, you know, this poor girl's water broke here at about 8:30 in the morning, and they didn't run to get the school nurse. They went to get the coach. And, you know, they were not a, you know, he didn't coach a girls' sport, but that's how much those folks mean to students even who don't participate in their particular sport.
Along those same lines, I've been asked, along those, along those same lines, I've been asked a question about our bus drivers. As you know, our bus drivers are not on Wednesdays. So our bus drivers chose jobs that they would like to do today on days, when we go virtual, or on days like today when they're not driving. So each of our bus drivers, and I want to recognize them, have worked in our schools today for 3 hours. They've either been in the kitchen, mowing. There's always something to do. And so each of our bus drivers, so we want them to continue to be paid. We want them to continue, as we do our coaches, to continue to be part of our staff. And they've been very gracious to find other jobs, to be assigned other jobs and to work on those days, and we're very thankful for that. So today we had a group of bus drivers that helped in the kitchen, did maintenance, did custodian, anything that we needed to do for the next 3 hours. And so we plan to do that on Wednesdays so that our bus drivers can continue receiving their salary. So I did want to share that with you in case you were asked. But just our kudos to them and Mr. Mooney who arranged that with that. And they were wonderful to just step in and help. Thank you.
So both of those were for information.
Yes, sir. That's my understanding.
Absolutely, yes. Thank you.
Okay. That brings us down to board comment. Anybody got a comment?
Wherever you want to start down there.
Okay. Well, I'm just real thankful that we've got school started back, and I'd like to commend the administration, our school bus drivers, all of our teachers, and the parents of everybody working together. And it really makes me feel good to be able to go outside the school here and see the future spot for the new elementary school. I think it's been a long time coming, and being able to go out there and look at something has been very, very positive. It's very good to be back in school. I mean, it's to start hearing the little stories about telling a little boy not to eat his food as he got on the bus and all those kind of things, and just being glad to be back in the building. I think that's, my goodness, I don't know what I'd have done if I'd got holed up for about 3 months. When I was at that age, a couple of days of snow was pretty bad. So I know how excited they were to be back in there. I'd also just, really think what our teachers and things are going through, and bus drivers. Probably not any teachers are going to hear this because they're probably on a Screencastify or Loom or putting something in Google Classroom right now, and they don't really have time right now to be watching this. But I know how hard they are working at it. I've seen the anxiety and the stress and the learning curves that they've had to try to get ready for these virtual things, and and really commend them with all of the safety protocols that are in place that they've got to kind of go through. So, it's going to get better. It's going to get easier. So we'll just keep at it. We thank you guys.
Well, I would certainly echo all that's been said and to say that for all the bus drivers and the cooks and custodians and teachers and everybody else, the coaches, everybody that's going on with the work for our students, I certainly got to see this in operation with my 2 grandchildren, and I saw a look in their faces I hadn't seen for a few months, and it was and I must say that each teacher that spoke there in that virtual classroom, they handled it so perfectly. It couldn't have been designed any better by any expert in this country. Their voices were polite and, inviting and refreshing and exciting, and everything else good about what I saw. It certainly is not easy on either end of that. I thought about all the parents that may be like me to a certain degree, challenge technology. Your eyes don't work the same as when they were young, and neither do your ears. But the kids catch on quicker. But the smaller children in particular, I do hope there's somebody out there that can help them a little. It's not so important, I guess, exactly how it's set up as just the quality of the people that set it up and actually run the thing. It's big time. It's a big deal for these kids and for the teachers too. And I just wish them all the best.
There's a lot going on with this meeting and just with our school system in general. Appreciative of Quisenberry's making the trip up here tonight. It was nice to step outside and get a visual of the things they're working on. Some of the, I guess, numbers are concerning for me, the same concerns I've had all along related to, what we're going to be able to do up here on this campus. We're looking at 62,000 square feet. Building, the current building that we have at Sand is over 75,000 square feet. So we're actually building a 13,000 square feet smaller school up here with the hopes of someday, bringing all the schools up here. It may be a very long time before we're able to realize that. I don't know what the projections will be on that. There's a lot of things to look at and a lot of numbers. As far as getting back, starting school, I echo what everybody's saying. It's just exciting to be back in school. There's a lot of challenges that we're facing. I commend Ms. Robinson and the central office staff and all of our staff. I don't think I've always appreciated educators as far back as I can remember, but I think this week I may be more appreciative than I ever have. With all the, new things we're expecting them to learn. I think Mr. Hicks said it best, makes a lot of sense. They may learn, our teachers may learn as much or more than our students this year. But the way that they're handling it has been very professional. Very proud of a lot of our parents I've heard from too. They're, and our kids. They went into this, a lot of people just didn't know. Up to the first day of school there, it's like, how's it going to be? We didn't have where am I supposed to go? And the kids and the parents have just been, all the feedback I've gotten has just been great. And they've been very appreciative of our staff. And I just want to say thanks to everybody.
I also appreciate the comments regarding the opening of school and the process of working or beginning to work on a new elementary school. I'd be interested to watch these develop over time and hope for nothing but good for the school system. That brings us down to closed session. Pursuant to Section 2.2-3711, Paragraph A of the Code of Virginia, there will be a closed meeting for the purpose of 1, employment issues relating to discussion or consideration of specific individuals for employment as a teacher at Ridgeview Middle School, transfer of a part-time special ed teacher from Ridgeview Middle School to Irvington Elementary School, substitutes, coaches, FMLA requests, resignations, post advertised for speech therapists, bus drivers, and regarding to retirement requests of a teacher pursuant to Section 2.2-3711A1 of the Code of Virginia, and 2, discussion and consideration of JEG exclusions and exemptions for school attendance, homeschool approvals pursuant to Section 2.23711A2, and 3, discussion and consideration of terms of a potential interim agreement with the Quisenberry-OWPR-Lane Group for construction of new elementary school involving the investment of public funds pursuant to a PPEA procurement where competition and bargaining are involved, where the financial interest of the school system would be adversely affected if these discussions were made public initially pursuant to 2.2-3711A6 of the Code of Virginia, and 4, to consult with legal counsel and receive briefings by staff members pertaining to actual litigation with the Board of Supervisors and IDA regarding the location of the proposed new elementary school pursuant to Section 2.2-3711A7 of the Code of Virginia. We are now in closed session.
We need a motion on that and a second.
Is there a motion and a second?
I move we go to closed session.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.